Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the February Coffee and Commerce here at Southgate Hotel. And first of all, we want to again thank Southgate Hotel for allowing us to meet here on a regular basis. And in addition to that, thank you to ACI Services for sponsoring the broadcast, the taping and the broadcast of this for local TV. It'll be shown the next 2 weeks on local TV too. And for the refreshments this morning, which I always have to remind everybody at home who didn't come, they don't get to eat the donuts. So this morning we have Scott St. Clair, who's the Business Development Manager for BWC in our area. And Scott is going to talk about a new program that BWC is offering to employers, and that's why you're all here, and that's why you at home are listening to this. I don't know any of the details. I'm here to learn it with you. So I'm going to turn it right over to Scott St. Clair, and welcome.
Thank you.
And we're anxious to hear what you have to say.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I do want to thank the Chamber for assisting in getting the word out. The Bureau is trying to get this into the hands of as many employers as possible because we want this to be a huge success. I will tell you, I've been with the Bureau for 24 and a half years, and this is one of the strongest campaigns we've had in trying to get some information out. And when I say 24 and a half years, let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I am a graduate of Columbus State Community College with a degree in hotel management, and I'm a graduate of the Ohio State University with a degree in human ecology. Now, how hotel management and human ecology apply to workers' compensation, I don't know, but they still felt they could hire me, and they did. So I'm gracious and thankful that I've been in public service for this long. It's been wonderful. I wanted to be in customer service. That's why I wanted to be in hotel management. And this is, I guess, the epitome of customer service is serving the public. When we talk about wellness, what are some of the things that come to mind? You know that it's everywhere, right? It's in our advertising, it's on the radio, it's in our TV, it's in our magazines. It can't be helped that you see it everywhere. And it sells. Wellness sells. And there's a lot of other things that sell too, but it's also become very convenient. I don't know how many gyms there are in Cambridge, but I know in other metropolitan areas, gyms are popping up all over the place where you can go 24/7, 365 days a year and get into a gym and work out and do that. The sad reality is a very large population just doesn't take wellness serious. We were talking prior to this, and there are some of us that have changed lifestyles, and yes, it is a commitment to make wellness a priority in your life, to make health a priority in your life. Let me start by giving you some statistics. Ohio, and I was provided these statistics, so let me just share them with you. Ohio is ranked 39th among 50 states on our healthiness, on our wellness. Ohio's adult population, of that, 31% are obese, 25.9% are inactive, 22% smoke, and 19% drink excessively. So that's a significant portion of the population when you think about how this is impacting everybody. So what if, let me grab my little clicker here. What if I can tell you we could help an Ohio worker identify a life-changing disease before it strikes? What if we could improve the health of thousands of Ohio workers? What if we could reduce healthcare costs for the employees and the employers? What if we could reduce the number of workplace accidents? What if we could increase employee morale, increase productivity, reduce time away from work? And we could do all of these great things and provide a great health benefit to the workers at no cost to you, the employer. And that's where I ask you to entertain Better You, Better Ohio, or I introduce Better You, Better Ohio. Before we get any further down the road, I want to make sure everyone has these handouts. Now, these two are the same information, they just have different pictures on them. So don't think that you're missing a document. If you didn't pick these up, grab them. We will refer to these in just a few minutes. There's a couple important links on them. And then this glossy sheet here is right directly from the Bureau. It's got our website on the back and a link on the back to some of the information we have regarding this. So just make sure you take these with you. There's plenty of copies. Take as many as you like. When we are talking about wellness, we have to say, well, what is it? What are the hurdles to it? And so on and so forth. Well, when employers look at it, what are some of the things that come to mind? Well, it's expensive. It's definitely expensive. On average, a true wellness program, if an employer were to fund it, would cost on an average of $300 to $350 per employee. So it's not cheap. They're also going to be looking at what resources do I have to manage this? What is the availability of someone in my business to take this over, to manage it the way it should be? And then lastly, just basically having the time to put forth to it. You might have personnel, you might not, you might have the funds, you might not, but you also need the time. Well, with this program, it's a new wellness program, it's a new wellness initiative we're starting. How is it different? It's not different from any other wellness program. It is essentially providing you, the employer, and providing your employees the resources they need for a wellness program. Now, it doesn't detract from our existing grant. Did everyone know that we had a wellness grant at the Bureau of Workers' Compensation? If you didn't, we do have an existing wellness grant. It's up to $15,000 per employer. Now, this is the existing one, not the one we're moving towards, not this one. But the existing grant is $15,000. The funding stops at 50 employees. But that's okay. You can have more than 50 employees, except that you're only going to get reimbursed in funding for 50. And that 50 employees over a period of 4 years at $300 per employee equals $15,000. So it allows you the funding to help create and administer a wellness program on your behalf. You do all the legwork, but it's different because now you're in complete control of that program. You get to figure out who your vendor is, how to do the biometric screens. A lot of footwork on your end has to occur. With this program, it's entirely different. How is this one being funded compared to that grant? This one is being funded through the billion back. All of you who are an employer in the room actually received the money back from us the last several years. We've had a billion back rebate every year, and the last billion back rebate included some funding for a variety of reasons and a variety of topics. One of them was wellness. Another one was for firefighters. If you paid attention to what we were doing for firefighting departments and firefighters and making sure we could get their turnout gear washed, taken care of, get the carcinogens out of it. They could actually buy washing machines and dryers, and they can buy some other safety equipment. And we also had some funding for developmentally disabled entities who work with adults and developmentally disabled people. So the billion back went a long way instead of just submitting money back to you and reimbursing money back to you, it helped fund some things. How did it fund it? It's $6 million per year. So for the remainder of this fiscal year, up through June 30th, $6 million is available. Next fiscal year, which begins July 1, if you know anything about the state, our fiscal years run July 1 to June 30th. July 1, another $6 million becomes available. So a total, obviously, of $12 million is on the table for your employee health and wellness. It's employee-centric. So you, the employer, aren't going to really be too much involved in managing the program or spearheading it. You're going to be the cheerleader. You're going to be the promoter. You're going to be the directing them to the information and to the service. But by and large, you're going to be mostly hands-off as far as having to fund it, manage it, track it, et cetera, et cetera. We are going to be using a wellness provider and a wellness vendor. So anything you see in other wellness programs is going to be available to your employees. It's something that you are not going to have to worry about or have to contract with or sign any paperwork for. And again, there are going to be incentives tied to this for your employees. Now you're saying, well, what kind of incentives are they? They're going to come in the form of gift cards. It will come from the vendor. We'll get to the amounts here in just a moment. But you'll see at the top center, there's MasterCard, and then you'll see all the other. These are a host of some of the vendors that are around, and they're going to be offered. It's not by all means a list of all of them. But these are going to be opportunities for your employee to earn financial incentives back for doing the wellness program. And again, there's a carrot there, obviously, but with a goal for doing some certain things. Wellness has been studied for years. And the objective is to change the health behavior of your employees. It's to change the health behavior, and that's a huge step. Understanding their health, understanding what behavior needs to be changed. That's what we are trying to attempt, is change their behavior. The second thing we want to do is we want them to maintain their behavior. That's the second biggest hurdle that employers have to do, and we as people have to do, is we have to understand why we changed it, and then we have to work on maintaining it, not for a short period of time, but for a very long period of time. And then the third objective is the return on investment. Why are we doing this? There's all kinds of metrics, and as I said, wellness has been studied for years. There's all kinds of metrics out there on all the improvements that can happen. With the return on investment, it's actually multifaceted. It improves your health, it improves absenteeism, it improves workplace injury, it reduces workplace injuries, it improves return to work opportunities, it keeps someone healthy, it keeps them from taking shortcuts. I don't know if you know this about your body, but your body changes as you become more unhealthy, or the more unhealthy you are, the more shortcuts your body has to do to make it work properly. That's something that's critical in your ergonomics of your body. I can read through these two statistics or three statistics. One obviously addresses obesity, one addresses smoking and non-smoking and the metrics behind it, but the third one addresses comorbidities and time away from work. We know that with workplace injuries, comorbidities do impact people's workers' compensation. Obesity is one of them, smoking is another. But when you talk about these three statistics, there's 5 actual components that we want employers to understand and what it does for you as an employer. Number one, it's definitely going to improve the health behavior of your employees. That's what we really want to do. And let me give you a short story on this personally. I will tell you, I went to a biometric screen. My biometric, and I won't get into all the details, but my biometric screen, I got the finger prick, they put it in the machine, and the machine said, can't calculate. And the lady looked at me and said, do you wear hand cream? I said, yes, I do, all the time. She said, please go to the restroom, scrub your hands, come back, we'll rerun it. She goes, that's probably the problem. Well, that was not the problem. I can guarantee it malfunctioned. My blood work was so poor that the machine could not calculate my numbers. Honest to goodness, true story. I do have the papers to prove it. But I will tell you, it was an eye-opener, and it changed, sorry about that, it changed my behavior. Just a simple number changed my behavior. It will reduce elevated health risks. We know that if someone starts to pay attention to their issues, it will reduce the risks. Number 3, it reduces healthcare costs. Not only are we worried about workers' compensation, how it impacts us, we want it to impact you as well. Wellness does both things. It impacts on both fronts. So it will help with the use of healthcare, and it will reduce the use of healthcare. Not that we're trying to take money out of the healthcare industry, but it's all about being healthy. It will improve the productivity of your employees. Now, has everyone heard of presenteeism? Anyone heard of the word presenteeism? I see one man shaking his head. Presenteeism is the fact that I show up to work, I sign in or clock in, and then I'm unproductive the rest of the day. I'm present and accounted for, I'm not absent, but my employer's not getting anything out of me, and partly due to my health and wellness, or that employee's health and wellness might contribute to that. And then lastly, it can deter and improve your absenteeism rate. So even if they are away from work, they're not getting something from you, but when they are at work, hopefully they will start getting something from you. When there are metrics involved with regards to comorbidities, you're going to see these statistics here where if they are involved, the risk of injury increases. So if heart disease is involved, you'll see the metric there, it's 23%. You'll see diabetes, you'll see depression, asthma. And by the way, the Bureau has to have a physical injury to pay for something. So we don't necessarily pay for stress. We don't necessarily pay for depression. So don't think that someone can file a claim just on those 2 merits. There has to be a physical injury to their body. But the point being is, if there's a comorbidity involved, the likelihood of them being injured, either on the job or away from the job, increases dramatically. Why are we offering the program? Again, we have a metric. We want to improve the claims and the injury rates across Ohio. We know there's a 3-to-1 return on investment on average, and the statistics tell you this, that for any employer who is involved in a health and wellness program, the return on investment can be as high as $3 or more per dollar invested. So if the Bureau's investing $6 million, we hope to get $18 million on that return on investment. If you know the Bureau, if you've been around the Bureau, if you've heard what the Bureau says about the programs we offer them because there is a return on investment, whether it's the transitional work bonus, whether it's the drug-free program, whether it's our Go Green discount, whether it's our lapse-free discount. We know there's some benefit at the end of the road with regard to those discounts. And keep those, but when we keep the injuries down, we keep the rates down, we keep your premiums down. But this is perfectly aligned with what our mission is. Our mission obviously is to protect Ohio workers and employers through prevention and care and health. We are not, sad to say, but we are not professionals in wellness. We're not the professionals in medical. We are professionals in safety and in health and in prevention. So when we're talking about changing the behavior of employees, we're talking about changing the behavior in a lot of different ways, and that includes wellness. We can go out and talk to an employer about safety all day long. We can talk to them about changing behavior, changing their culture, changing things that improve their safety and improve the behavior of their employees. But we're not talking to them enough about wellness. And wellness is a huge contributor to that. How does the program work? This is where the rubber meets the road. Just so you know, because the Bureau's not involved and you, the employer, are not directly involved, your employee's information is confidential and will be held in strict confidentiality regarding this program. We are going to be using a third-party vendor. Your employees are going to be engaged with that third-party vendor. That third-party vendor will not be sharing any information with you or with us. They will share with us the aggregate information, maybe by gender, maybe by industry, and maybe a couple other metrics. But as far as individual data regarding your employees, it will be held in strict confidentiality. We have partnered with Active Health. Active Health is owned by Aetna. If you go to their website, you can look at them, you can see and read all about them. They're going to be the ones who your employees are going to be interacting with. We put out a request for proposal. That request for proposal asks for certain criteria, and the Department of Administrative Services, in conjunction with us, approved Active Health for the approval of this contract. So Active Health will be the entity that is involved. They are very large. You can see they deal with millions of people across the United States. The other day, when we had a meeting regarding this internally, we got to see where the city of Pittsburgh uses Active Health regarding their services and what they do for their employees with the city of Pittsburgh. That was somewhat interesting. They actually work best with the largest employers. That's their niche or their niche. They work with employers that are 5,000 employees or greater. So that's one of the reasons, probably one of the reasons why they demonstrated how they could handle this for Ohio, is the fact that they are a large corporation. They have the ability and the resources to handle a lot of employees. There are no administrative costs to the employer. There is no paperwork to the employer. So there is nothing you're going to be doing except promoting and encouraging and being that employee's cheerleader to drive them in that direction. I will say that the state of Ohio's wellness program is very similar to this. The state of Ohio uses a third-party vendor. They direct us to that third-party vendor, and we do everything through that third-party vendor's website. So it is very similar to what we do. Not as robust, obviously, but it's a little different. There are two targeting workforces. First workforce, and they're outlined on this glossy sheet of paper. Remember, this is going to apply to any company with 50 employees or less, and on the back bottom, it talks about the industries that this applies to. Now the question becomes, Scott, why did the Bureau limit this to 50 employees, and why did they limit it to these industries? Well, let me give you 3 reasons why. Number 1 is simply funding. We have $12 million available. We just simply didn't have the funds or didn't allot the funds or approve the funds to fund everybody in the state of Ohio for this. That would be a significant financial undertaking, but that's not to say that it's not important to everybody. That's why our existing wellness program did not go away. We still want to make that available to the employers who this doesn't apply to. The second reason is we looked at our injury rates. For those industries who have a moderate to high injury rate, we wanted to offer something to improve their injury rates with regarding to wellness. Third, we know statistically that employers with 50 employees or less in certain industries, and in these industries alone, wellness or the availability of a wellness program actually is non-existent. Only about 10% of the employers in these categories offer something. So there's nothing there and available to the employees and the employers who want to do it. It's far too expensive, as I noted earlier. Oh, let me back up. The second population is the injured worker population. Now you're saying, well, where does this come from? How is this going to apply? They will be asked by invitation only. It's going to be an invitation from the managed care organization. And the managed care organization will have some criteria, which we'll get into in just a moment. But there will be injured workers who do not fit the mold of 50 employees or less, and they may not be in one of those industries, but they're an injured worker that's at risk with a comorbidity involved that the MCO feels health and wellness should be health and wellness should be offered to them. Sorry about that. These are the targeted industry. Yes, sir.
Would it only be for state-funded employers, not privately?
It's public employers and the private employers. So private employers still have a
Self-insured?
Oh, self-insured, no. No self-insured and no state agencies. The targeted industries, there are agriculture, that's huge, that's farms. We have construction, firefighters, healthcare, manufacturing. Some of these are very broad in nature. Thank you. Some of those are very broad in nature. Public employers, for example, let's look at that sector. When you look at the public employers, you're thinking to yourself, well, this applies to just about everybody. Well, you have to look at the school districts. Some school districts are too large. They're going to have more than 50 employees. Some counties, or most of the counties, or all of the 88 counties in the state of Ohio will probably have more than 50 employees. So you're thinking, well, who's left? Well, you have the cities, small villages, you have townships, you have public libraries, you have special health districts and special districts that are out there. You've got a variety of public employers that this still applies to, and a good number of employers out there in the public sector. Restaurant and food service is rather huge. Transportation and trucking, trash collection, wholesale and retail is rather large as well. When you look at the service industry, it's very, very broad. So when you look at a couple of these, they become very narrow. The whole service industry is something we can't offer this wellness program to. It's just very broad, and the data again tells us that we don't need to be offering it to them. But when you look at the service industry, hotel, resale, restaurant, food service, there's a significant, and healthcare, there's a significant amount of employees in the service industry this still applies to. Now, one of the things you're not going to see here are what I technically call the white collar professions. So you're going to talk about the doctor's offices, the attorney firms, the law firms, accounting firms, any other white collar where they sit around a lot. I am a person of white collar. I am a white collar person. I sit around 7 hours a day. I sit at a desk. I get up and move constantly, but my job primarily is sitting around a majority of the time. I travel 45 miles to work and 45 miles back because I live on the other side of in Belmont County. I sit a lot during my day, and then when I get home, my wife wonders, why are you so exhausted? It's something I am not active in. So you're not going to see that with regards to this industry. Hopefully, After the first wave of this is done, the Bureau is going to reevaluate, I know they're going to reevaluate the numbers, they're going to reevaluate the metrics and the success from this, and hopefully open it up to a number of other industries and at high-risk individuals. The white-collar people aren't at risk for injury. From workers' compensation standpoint, their risk is very low. But I can tell you, sitting around is not healthy. Sitting all day, as white-collar people do, is definitely not healthy. So I'm hoping that the Bureau moves in that direction with regards to some of those industries. When we're talking about the managed care organizations, as I said, they are going to invite them. They are going to consider some things, comorbidities. They're going to consider some of the diagnosis, some of the occupations, and also some of the time away from work. Now, there are some other things that are going to apply before they offer that invitation to that injured worker. The injury has to occur within the past 12 months. The employer has to pay between $1,000 and $180,000 in premium. So we're still talking a rather small sector of the premium base, but from an employer standpoint, it's going to be rather large. They can't have a wellness program. The employer can't have a wellness program. The employer actually has to agree to allow that injured worker to participate. So there is going to be a discussion with you, with the managed care organization, and with Active Health to make sure that you give the approval for them to participate. The injured worker has to be off greater than 1 day, and like I said before, there has to be one comorbidity involved. There are going to be some injured workers who don't get invited. There are going to be some who do. But it's going to be based on what the MCO feels should be appropriate and should be extended to that injured worker. That's the MCO's decision to decide. If you happen to have a claim that you feel should be considered, I suggest you speak to your managed care organization, tell them why you feel that they should be offered the wellness program, and see what the MCO can do, and then put them through the method or the motion and the method to get that injured worker involved. When we're talking about the services, what comes, what incentives are tied to it, what's all involved. So regardless of which employee it is, whether it's the workforce population or the injured worker population, there are two categories. The first category is a basic service. As long as they complete the health risk assessment, and as long as they complete their biometric screen, your employee would be eligible for $75 in the way of a gift card. Again, that gift card will be coming from Active Health. Those are the only two items that employee has to complete or must complete to get the incentive. There are going to be other opportunities available for that employee, but the minimum is those two things to get the incentive. The advanced service, and this is where it gets rather interesting and where the professionalism of Active Health comes into play. Active Health, when they get the biometric screens back from your employees, when they get the health risk assessments done, Active Health is going to review that information, and they will extend an invitation for additional services. When they extend those services, they're going to be offering coaching, lifestyle management, disease management, and some other education opportunities and some one-on-one coaching from Active Health because that employee is at risk. So let's just look at both of these populations for a minute. Everybody who's eligible by way of 50 employees or less and in one of those given industries gets $75, no problem. However, there will be a subset of employees that are invited by Active Health. We're not involved, you're not involved. So that there's going to be that subset, they're going to be eligible for 125. You might hear somebody complain that they don't get 125 and somebody else got 75. Well, you can tell them that's the good news. You're healthy, you don't need the extra $50, but someone else might be. Here's the problem. You're not going to know who gets the $75, you're not going to know who gets the $125, and yes, your employee shares it with you. If it gets out among the workforce, it's because the employees are talking. It's not because you're sharing anything. Or Active Health is not going to be sharing anything either. That's the only way this type of decision and people maybe voicing their concern about not getting an extra $50 or a chance to get $50 gets out. This is really hard to see. on this sheet right here. And as of today, so you're one of the lucky ones, as of today, this link goes live. This link right here goes live for all the employees who are eligible. They log on, and the first thing they will do is they will click that button. It's a request to enroll. What does that mean? The employee then will click that button, they'll log in, and they'll provide just a small amount of information for that request. They're going to ask for the company name. They might ask for policy number. I wasn't told whether or not they're going to do that. Oh, you already did it? Okay, so the policy number is not there. I know that was being kicked around. So it's just the name of your business. Please make sure they know the exact business name that we're using on your policy. And let me give you a fine example. I do this when someone calls me at the bureau and they say, I need some help with my policy. Okay, what's the name? And they give me a name and it doesn't come up. Is it some other name? No, it's Joe Smith Trucking. Or it might be Joseph S. Smith Trucking, or whatever it might be. And I look it up and I finally find it, and it might be Joseph Samuel Trucking Incorporated. So please make sure that when you're providing the information to your employees, they know exactly what name to put in on this. The third thing they're going to ask is whether or not you have a health and wellness program. The answer has to be no to be eligible. So if you're an employer who already offers a health and wellness program, if you are an employer who offers a health and wellness program, you actually are not eligible for this, even though you might meet the other two criteria. Okay? So they will submit the request to enroll. They'll answer just a few questions. Active Health is going to bounce that information off of us. Now, one thing that we don't have is the number of employees. We don't require that when you pay your premium. We ask for it, but we don't require it. And 0 is still a digit, the last time I checked. So there are employers out there who put 0 in for the number of employees. We are going to be using information from another source in the state, the Job and Family Services source, where we know that they have the count of employees. So we are going to be using that source to vet you through Active Health's website. 24 hours, I'll say at a minimum 24 hours, but give them 48. They're going to turn that information around and they're going to send your employee an email back. So what's the critical point in that? Your employee needs an email address. I found out the other day there are employees in this state who don't have access to dial-up or high-speed internet, and they don't have email addresses. I was floored. I must live in a bubble. I do live in a bubble. But the point is, if you have that type of demographic where someone doesn't have that access, then you have to get creative if you want them to be a participant in this. The other day I told a lady that if they have access to a work computer, you can get them signed up on a free Gmail account or Yahoo account or one of the other free email accounts out there, just so the employee can get an email address to participate in this. So you have to get creative when there's some barriers there. Okay, so let's say, for example, everyone's a go green. They got it, they enrolled, they got the email back, great. Next thing they're going to do is they're going to click on that center button, and it's going to be a registrant button. They register, and then they're going to be given instructions on what to do next. Obviously, they're going to do a health risk assessment. Has anyone ever done a health risk assessment? They are rather diverse. They take about 20 to 25 minutes if it's a good one. And what they will do is they will ask you several questions, not detailed questions, but they're going to ask you several questions in a variety of areas of your life. They're going to ask you about your financial health. Believe it or not, they're going to ask you how happy you are with certain things regarding your finances. They're going to ask you about your marital health. They're going to ask you about your social health. They're going to ask you about your activity. They're going to ask you about your mental health. And there's a few other things they ask you about, but when they ask you all this, they're going to get a digital report back from Active Health, and it's going to show them how healthy they are in a variety of areas in their life. Because we know that one side of your life can impact another side of your life, and you don't even know it. They'll do the health risk assessment, then they'll be given instructions on how to do the biometric screen and where to go for the biometric screen. One side note about the health risk assessment, I will tell you this. My daughter is on the medical track at Ohio State. She is going through physiology and anatomy classes. She calls me all the time and says she learns all this cool stuff about our bodies. All the different systems in our bodies work in harmony together. They work perfectly together to make our bodies work. When one small part, one small system of our body gets out of whack, it affects everything else. It really does. It starts to affect you in a variety of different ways. And what I hear from her and all the things she's learning about, I'm amazed how intricate everything is within our bodies. Really impressive. The third button over to the right. This is once they are involved, they get the health risk assessment done, they're on the track to get the biometric screen. They're going to be moving towards that login button, and they can go onto that login button, they can log in anytime, and they can manage whatever they have going on with Active Health. So that's what this is going to look like. What are they going to do for biometric screens? Active Health has contracted with Quest Diagnostics. Quest Diagnostics is a provider around the state of Ohio for biometric screens. They do have a number of service centers. I do know that Quest Diagnostics in some areas is going to be rare, or getting to a location for specifically Quest Diagnostics is going to be rare. There are going to be service centers available. There might be opportunities where one of the providers or one of the centers in your area might work with Quest. Just ask them, or if your employees are having trouble finding a Quest Diagnostic location and you need to find a service location, please help them in trying to establish where they can go. It is going to be something they have to do for the biometric screen. Now, they don't have to go to Quest to get this done. All right, they do not have to go there. That's one option. The second option is they can obviously go to their own provider. One of the things that I'm telling employers when we're talking about this is there is a possible cost if they go to their provider about that. Some of us have health care where our one wellness visit a year is free. If we've already used that, like myself, if I had to go and do this, I would have to pay that copay for my insurance to pay for my doctor visit to get my biometric screen done. And there's also a potential that the doctor's office may charge them, I know my doctor does, charges you for completing an additional piece of paper on your behalf. I see another nod of the shake of the head, they do. The third thing is they can request a home kit from Active Health. I do know there's some protocol there that they would have to follow. Obviously, they have to scrub their finger real well and do the finger prick and so on and so forth. But there will be some home kit they can order and get from Active Health to do it and then send it somewhere to get it evaluated. Interesting component there. The last one is they are going to be doing screenings across the state of Ohio. I have not seen the list. I don't know where they're going to be located, but it'll be much like you walking into a health fair somewhere. I'm sure you can walk in, and I'm sure they're going to be taking registrations, but there are going to be events across the state of Ohio where the employees can go to get this done. The way I look at it is, it should not cost the employee a lot of money to get that biometric screen done. It just should not, but it should be at their convenience as well. There is going to be an app available. Obviously, there's an app for everything now. And so Active Health does have an app. They do not have to log into the computer to manage their account. You'll see the Active Health logo there. So you can direct them to do that as well. Now, I want to break down these 4 bullets real simply for you. The top 2, this is where the basic services start and begin, or start and end, excuse me. Everyone who participates gets the HRA, their health risk assessment, and they get the biometric screen. Everybody also who participates gets the awareness, the training, the education, all the other things that come with a wellness program. They get that also available to them through Active Health. So there will be opportunities to learn more. There will be opportunities to help them maintain their life, maintain their lifestyle, recipes, all kinds of different things, activities they can do. Everything on the Active Health website will be available to them. When you get into the invitees, the people from Active Health who are going to be eligible for that additional $50, this is where it becomes really impressive. The active health people will start the personalized health coaching, They will start the nurse advocate line and the coaching lines. This is where they will also extend the lifestyle management and the disease management education for those employees as well. So that's the step up. As long as they complete a minimum of 3 coaching calls, and it depends on probably the disease, but if they complete 3 of them, then the employee can earn $50 in an additional gift card. So that's the difference in the 4 bullets, but they are available to the ones who it applies. Again, Better You, Better Ohio will improve the workforce health, reduce the severity, cost of injuries, increase the speed of recovery, and improve the return to work outcomes. I've heard numerous stories on people being healthy. When you go in for a joint replacement of a knee or a hip, if someone's actually healthy, their recovery is in weeks as opposed to months. So doctors like to see someone who's healthy when they go onto the operating table because they know the long term it's going to be a shorter recovery for them. So that is true for everything. That's true not just on the personal side of things, but also on the workers' comp side of things. And again, one of the things the Bureau strives to do, and I want to make sure this is really important, is we are always trying to get someone back to work. We are always trying to get someone back to work. Your managed care organization is working hard to get those employees back to work. When you get someone who gets to the point of 6 months off work, their likelihood of coming back to work drops like 50%. But when you get someone who's been off work for a longer period of time, closer to a year, the likelihood of them returning to work really, really decreases. It almost is absent. So the goal, again, is healthy people get back to work, and they get back to work quicker. Can we help you have a better workforce? Absolutely we can. We know we can. We know that the statistics tell us that wellness will improve your injury rates, and we want you to be a partner with your employees. You don't have a hook in this. The only hook you have is to be the promoter, the cheerleader, the coach, so to speak, to direct them in that way. And again, this is a website that became active today, and we ask that you help promote it. We do know that your employees won't know anything about it unless you tell them about it. So it's up to you to let them know about it. We are not doing any type of employee or injured work promotion. It's up to you to do it on your grounds, in your culture, to pull that off. And there's some resources here. If you've never been to these resources, I encourage you to look them up. One of the ones I really like to look at are the Facebook fraud stuff and the WordPress fraud stuff. If you're ever interested in whether or not there are people out there taking advantage of workers' compensation, the stories are all there. I promise you. It's unique on what we can find and improve. And there's my contact information. That's correct. Her question was, the one thing that employers may have to work out is the Quest diagnostics and the logistics on getting there. That's right. When you check the Quest Diagnostics website, you're going to see that they're sparsely located across the state of Ohio. I have been told there are far more service centers available than what the Quest Diagnostics website is showing. Okay? So the service centers, I don't know, are provided through Quest's website. So that's where I have encouraged employers to reach out to Quest, reach out to one of their providers, reach out to somebody who may work with Quest to get this accomplished. And again, you can also, as the employer, reach out to Active Health and see if they can help you with that as well. But that's been a concern at every one of our presentations. And let me explain the presentations real quick. We started this promotion, I know I got in contact with Joe at the beginning of December. But we started this heavy promotion last Monday. There are going to be 100, close to 100, I don't know what the exact total is, it's 101 or 102 events across the state of Ohio. The Bureau actually is trying to touch all 88 counties. We were given the challenge to have an event in each county so employers could come and learn about this. We have done that. There has been at least one event in each county. I will say that the Bureau is estimating 25,000 employees are going to jump on immediately. They'll get involved, they'll be approved, they'll get in place and get those incentives. However, there are 500,000 employees that are actually eligible. That's our estimate. So there's a significant amount of opportunity there. And Joe knows this. She's been around the Bureau of Workers' Compensation a while, or with us. Grant money doesn't last long. And so if you get the right people involved, you get the right employees involved, that money, at $75 a slice, it'll go pretty slow. At $125 a slice, it could go pretty slow. But as the program grows in popularity, as it grows and people start to learn about it and they find out exactly that, wow, this is not going to cost me anything. It's not, all I have to do is be a cheerleader and promote it. Yeah, it's going to start to ramp up and start to go pretty quick. But I encourage you, get your employees involved, get them turned on to this website as quickly as possible. Now, Active Health is also going to be doing what they call, let me back up here. They're going to be doing champion packets. I don't know where those are going to be and when those going to be available, but I've been told Active Health is going to help you with material to help promote this as well. All the information I told you and what's in front of you, there's a lot of information on our website at this link. If you, from our home page, you're going to see a link for the wellness information. It'll take you directly to that page. Go out there, see if there's anything you can use besides what's here, and help promote it with your employees. Anything else?
Your 50 employee limit that you have on there, what if you have multiple locations in multiple states? Is that only in Ohio?
It's your only Ohio payroll.
Only Ohio payroll?
Yes, sir. Yep. And it's and that brings up a very good point. It's also head count. So if you have a part-time employee, it counts as a full employee. All right? Yes, ma'am.
Do we need to let the Bureau know we are doing it?
No, ma'am. The question was, do you have to let the Bureau know you're doing it? Absolutely, you don't. There is no minimum requirement. There's no maximum except for the 50 employees. I will say that we are not going to know anything about who participates, what employers are participating, so on and so forth, other than what we get back from Active Health. We're going to know from an aggregate standpoint on how many employees are involved, what industry, and we may know from an individual level how many employees you have, but we're not going to know anything more than that. And again, it's not a requirement for anything. That's very important. People think, do I have to do this? Is this something that's mandated, so on and so forth? Absolutely not. Yes, ma'am.
For, if you're not considered a high risk, I mean, I work at a Visitors Intervention Bureau, should we pass this out to our employees? I mean, we have 3 full-time employees.
Should you pass it out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, do you want us to have them go on?
The question is, she works for Convention and Visitors Bureau. I would imagine your employees aren't eligible. That doesn't preclude them from logging on and seeing if they would be eligible. Again, I would venture to say they aren't. What I would encourage you to do is to promote health and wellness as you can. And you can actually take advantage of our wellness grant if you wanted to through the existing program and the $300 per employee for 4 years if you want to do that route. But there's no incentives tied to that one. We don't provide the incentives for
I was
that.
going to say, on that note, have you gone to the BWC website? They have all kinds of videos and stuff that you can download and
Yeah,
access
I
to the
go to
library.
Safety Council for
Yeah.
Yeah,
14 years.
yeah.
I was there when it was 5 years.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, it was in the hospital in a little dark room in the back of the coat closet. We've come a long way.
Any additional questions? Again, this is something we're promoting. I still have the rest of today and tomorrow to promote this. I have 3 more events. And this was a huge undertaking and a huge promotion push by the Bureau to make sure the employees know that this is something you can take advantage of. So I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
I'll just stand next to you because you have the microphone
That's
on.
right.
And thanks again for coming. Thanks for TV2 for broadcasting the information today. And again, thanks to ACI Services for providing the video and rebroadcast of the event. I think that there are going to be a lot of employers who are going to be sorry they missed this. And so I would encourage all of us to talk about this to other employers too. I didn't know the details, and now that I do, I think, oh my gosh, like the VCB and the Chamber of Commerce, we're jealous that we probably
Right.
won't be able to participate in this. But that means that we are not very high risk, so that's good. So thanks a lot. We hope you all come back to March. We don't have a speaker yet, but I will be announcing that. So from the Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Directors, thank you very much for coming, and thanks ACI Services.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.